Hi, I'm David Campos and welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to talk about multiple income streams in the music business. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but there are actually many income streams in the music business. And one of the things that I've managed to do in my life, by accident and through trial and error, is I've managed to find as many income streams as possible to leverage my music to make the most amount of money. A lot of people think that selling CDs is the be all and end all of making money in the music business, and let me tell you, that is just a small part of the whole pie. So let's get in there and let me show you how it all works. So let's go right into it. So the multiple income streams of music. Let's start with the first one. You have a studio, and that's the first income. You can hire your studio out. This is something I have done in the past, and it is one of the ways of making money. It's quick money because you will get people to come in and record. You don't have any involvement in the business side of things, how the CD sells or whatever the project is. You've got no connection to that. You're just hiring the studio per hour or per day, and there's different hiring rates. So there's studio rates. There's two sides to this, and the second one is sound engineer rates. Usually a studio is hired out per hour, and a studio needs a sound engineer. So that could be you, or you could have a studio and you have a sound engineer that works for you. Sometimes you'll also hire out a studio per day, and sometimes per week, and sometimes per month, depending how long. You know, I know of bands recording an album for 6 months, and they literally will block book a studio for 6 months. They'll come and go as they please, even on Saturdays or Sundays or day or night, and there'll be a monthly rate. So that's the first way of making money. Studios can also offer extra services. This is another way to make money. So you could mix other people's projects. That could be a project that's recorded in another studio that you could offer to mix as a service. I know many guys, producers, who mix other people's tracks, and they charge a once-off fee. You know, depending how good you are and how well-known you are, it depends how much you could charge for that. Another area that you can make money from a studio is mastering. You can offer mastering. You could say, well, bring your mixed tracks, bring the tracks from other studios and other producers, and we'll master it for you. I've done that many, many times, mastered other people's tracks. These days I don't really do it anymore. I don't really mix or master anybody else's music, because I just find it, for me personally, it's just not worth it for my time. I prefer to work on projects that are my own personal projects that I mix and master. Physical delivery is another service I've seen some guys do. I personally, well, I've done it as an extra service for free, but I do know of guys who charge for it. So you could, for example, offer the service of, we'll fetch your CD or your DAT tape or whatever it is from your physical location, or you could courier it, and then we'll do the work, either mixing and mastering, and then we will physically deliver it to your doorstep through a courier. So that's another service. Next service, internet services. A studio can offer internet services. That could be emailing of separates to another studio for mixing, or receiving multiple files for mixing, sending songs up and down from one studio to another. Another one could be sending final masters. You could send a final master, and I've done this many times, especially on international jobs. I was working on a job the other day that I composed the music for, but the final mix was being done in London, and the reason was they were mixing the voiceover and the sound effects, and then my music I composed all together in another studio in London. So I emailed my final composition track to that studio. So you could charge for that as an extra service, you know, per email or per megabyte or something like that. And another area that goes into internet service is streaming recording sessions over the internet. So, for example, you could have a track that you've written and you want somebody to, say, lay a voiceover. You could stream the voiceover from your studio to another studio, and the producer could be sitting in that studio listening to the take and going, yes, no, change this, change that. At the end of the session, you could email the final file. So these are extra services. Okay, payment, you know, with physical studio renting, hiring, it depends on your relationship with your clients. You know, I see this more as a cash business. I personally would not record any artist, especially if I didn't know them, if I did not get 50% of the money up front for the studio time. The second thing you got to make sure is you never hand over masters. You never ever hand over a master or a finished product until the second 50% is paid. I'm talking about bands that come off the street, or other music producers that you're recording for, or whatever. I'm not talking about like corporate clients or people that have commissioned you. I'm talking about hiring out your studio per hour. And again, it depends. If it's a record company hiring the studio, then you can forego that 50% up front, because and I'm talking about a reputable record company, then you can forego it. But if these are guys off the street, my rule is 50% up front and second 50% on the handing over of the masters or the separates or the recordings or anything like that. They don't get nothing until they paid that second 50%. It does not leave the studio. And the reason I do that is because I've just been, I found myself so many times in a situation where people don't pay that second 50%, you know, especially musicians so often can run out of money. You know, their income is not guaranteed every month. You know, they live day to day and month to month. Studio session work. So I'm talking about working under another producer. So as a session producer, session producing could be, for example, going under another producer and helping them with their beats, or helping them with the programming of their song, or helping them in a complimentary way. And the way to make money from that is you could negotiate a fee per day, per hour, per song. It could be any one of those. Performing, that would, you know, it's a very blurred line between producing and performing, because often when you're producing, you're also performing. You might play in a bass line, you might program some drums. So that again is something that's negotiated. Arranging, you know, I know of many producers, for example, that are not comfortable arranging string arrangements, orchestral arrangements. So you get a guy who's done like a rock track, let's say like Brian Eno has done Coldplay, they've done this rock track. He might hire a string arranger to come on the side and come and just arrange the string section of the song. So if you're an arranger, or if you know a little bit about arranging, that's another way to make money. And I've done that before. You know, I've had guys come to me and say, please just help me with a song. I'm having a problem with the arrangement. I really can't get my strings to sound right. And I've come in and I've written new string arrangements for the song, organized it for the producer, and then charged him a fee for that. The next section of multiple income streams of music is commission. Now, this can be a really big one. There can be quite a lot of money in this, and this is really where I would say a good 40% of my income personally has come from. So albums, the way you record albums and the way to negotiate it as a producer, when a record company commissions you to record an album, there's usually two parts to the equation. The first is a fixed price to deliver the final master, the product, and hence the word producer. A producer produces a product, and that's a fixed price, and that's the cost. That's the recording, the studio, the session musicians, and all of that. And that's what you're arranging as a producer. Now, in my situation, I own my own studio, so when I get commissioned to record an album, I also perform most of the instruments unless the band themselves play, and then I will occasionally hire a guitarist or whatever to come and play on my productions. But there's a fixed fee, and that fee that you could charge again can be per song, it can be per album. I've had many times where I've only produced 1 or 2 songs on an album of an artist, and I've also had times where I've produced the entire album. So if you're charging a certain price for a track, and then a record company or an artist says, no, we want you to do the whole album, then obviously that's negotiable. You can lower your price by 30% or 20% depending on how many tracks they give you. Again, the price you can charge to produce an album or a song, it all is dependent on your track record of how many records you've sold. So in the beginning, you're going to struggle to get any kind of decent money. But as time passes, and as you get a bit of experience, a bit of hits, and a bit of a name, then you can start to charge more and more and more. Now I'm going to go to jingles and ads. This is another area that I've made a lot of money in. And this is basically composing music for commercials, TV ads, corporate ads, in-house ads, things like that. So sometimes it's just a jingle, sometimes it's a song, sometimes it's working sound to picture. And this is very different because this starts to also very corporate. So you're dealing with advertising agencies, very professional. Let me tell you, the budgets on ads can sometimes be 10 times more than albums. I've negotiated world deals before that have been astronomical figures where ads have gone to the entire world. I've also heard of stories of Barry Manilow, who produced the Coke jingle. I mean, he charged, I think, $5 million for one jingle that became the world theme song for Coca-Cola. So, and there's many, many stories like that of guys making huge money out of jingles and ads. Let me tell you, you don't also have to be an international jingle writer to make decent money. In every small country in the world, and every country in the world, there are jingle writers. There are guys who compose for ads, usually very professional. They usually make a lot of money, but it's something that you have to be really professional at. You cannot have a musician vibe of like arriving late for sessions, being disorganized and unprofessional. You have to be on your game to get this right. Documentaries, this is starting to get in the area of film. The documentary is also quite specialized. You have to work sound to picture. Usually this is a once-off fee agreement and a buyout. So again, it's best to have your own studios to do this, but you can hire studios if you can afford it. Film scores, similar to documentaries. Again, there's lots of money in film scores, and it can be quite specialized. And again, it comes down to building a name, you know. Obviously, the greats of like Ennio Morricone, who've made their names writing music for film, have built their names and can charge incredible amounts of money. Video games is a new one. A lot of people are writing music for video games, and a lot of video games are selling a lot more units than music sells. It can be quite lucrative, so that could be a professional way of making money. By the way, if you're not subscribed to my blog, why don't you go to ecomputerrecordingsoftware.com and subscribe, and then you'll get more free information. I got a free ebook that I'll send you, Music Production 101, and I'll keep sending free videos every now and again. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please leave comments on the bottom. I'd love to know if you have any questions. Please just write them down underneath in the comments, and I'll see if I can get around to answering them. Cool, guys.